welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Back at it with another video, and today we're going to take a look at this up-and-coming full moon in the sign of Libra. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, make sure you click the bell button below, subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel grow. And equally, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and consider sharing on your socials. Don't forget to leave me a comment. Let me know where this full moon is taking place and how you guys are feeling about these karmic connections. All right, so this is a part of a story that goes back to September of last year. So part of this video, I'm going to be kind of taking a look at the solar eclipse that we had in Libra 2024 to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. Now, this full moon is going to be happening on April 12th, 2025, and it'll be at 23 degrees of Libra. As you guys know, 23 degrees deals with Uranus. It is connected to freeing ourselves. In this case, I think from karmic blockages when it comes to love, relationships, and diplomacy. But this is also a degree where we see some kind of evolution. Something speeds up, things kind of quickly escalate, and we can see some make or break situations in regards to our relationships to someone or something. Now, you're going to have to take a look at where Libra is in your chart. And if you guys stay tuned to the end, I'll take you through the 12 rising signs and let you know what I think. But a full moon in Libra happens every Aries season. We see the sun's opposition to the moon, and this is all about balance, healing, and cosmic shifts. So we're going to talk all about this today. I think in many ways, this is a very gorgeous full moon. I think that it can be wonderful for healing relationship issues and having some kind of heart-to-heart conversations with those that we're closest to the most. But there's some other stuff that's kind of going on also with the conjunction between the sun and Chiron, where we have to heal our personal wounds, be in good balance with ourselves to be able to show up for other people. Now, like I said, it's following last year's solar eclipse, and it's bringing some major revelations. So you're going to have to think about what seeds you planted 6 months ago, and we will kind of unpack some of the themes and the symbolism and the aspects to kind of move through this energy a little bit more gracefully. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, the symbolism of a full moon in general, in a nutshell, is this is the peak kind of point of the lunar cycle. We see a full moon happen every month, and it's 2 weeks after this really intense solar eclipse that we saw in the sign of Aries. Aries is about the self, it is about our identity, what we do independently, and what we initiate, versus Libra, which is who are we together? How can we support one another, and what are we doing? What are we becoming? So full moons naturally represent that polarity that we see in the Aries-Libra axis. It's a time of release. It can also be culmination and clarity in regards to the Libra part of your horoscope. Now, Libra is the sign of balance. It is a cardinal sign, and it's associated with the element of air. So even though it's ruled by Venus, it has a much more masculine energy. It wants to take action in relationships, initiate kind of connections, and try to rebalance the scales. It represents things like beauty as well, anything in regards to harmony, as well as pleasure and personal possessions, because it does have a connection to Venus. Now, the full moon is asking us to find harmony, to find that balance, find out where it's working and where it's not. So because Libra is ruled by Venus, we're going to be talking a lot about what's going on with Venus, and big news later after the full moon in Libra, we're actually going to see Venus finally go direct in Pisces. So obviously there's going to be a little extra oomph. There's much more focus also on love, fairness, and how we connect with others. But you guys are also going to have to take a look at where Pisces is in your chart. Now, since the beginning of March, Venus has been retrograde. She started retrograde in the sign of Aries, connected to the same solar degree where we saw the solar eclipse. But now I think we're going to be reevaluating where we stand in relationships to other people, places, and things. Don't be fooled by the pretty vibes of a full moon in Libra. Some of these aspects really pack a punch. And as you guys know, Libra is very much about balance and fairness, but it is also about squaring up with other people, airing things out, and really kind of getting it all out in the open so it can be kind of worked on or, make decisions about separation. So Libra really demands justice. It's a sign, because it's an air sign, that it can easily kind of cut through illusions and realize where things are out of whack. Now, let's look at the connection to the solar eclipse that we saw 6 months ago, just to get a better understanding and idea of like this storyline. So, as I told you guys, we had this eclipse last fall, and the eclipse was happening at 10 degrees of Libra. So, this was the new moon solar eclipse that kind of fueled everything that's kind of coming up to the surface now in April. Solar eclipses are opportunities for new beginnings, right? It's all about planting new seeds. And in this case, I think it was initiating new relationships and reevaluating what is and is not working in existing ones. Now, it was at a 10, so this is a karmic degree. This is a degree that's kind of connected to Saturn as well as Capricorn. This means those of us who have been in long-standing relationships, there may be some changes going on, or maybe we're feeling a little indecisive about which direction to kind of go in. Part of this is because the solar eclipse was a part of the South Node, and the South Node represents karma, the past, what we're releasing, but also what we're tapping into. Maybe we reconnected with old flames, friends, as well as therapists and support systems right around the time of the solar eclipse. The solar eclipse also had a connection with Mercury. Mercury was cazimi with the sun. It was within a degree of the sun. So it did represent some shocking or surprising information or news that was going to be coming up in a relationship sense. Maybe somebody called us out of the blue. Maybe we had an unexpected conversation. It can also mean that we were really honing in on kind of airing out what has not been working. Perhaps we've seen we're being indecisive or unsure, or people pleasing has actually created more issues and problems in relationships. Now, at the time, the solar eclipse was ruled by Venus, and we see Venus in some kind of tricky aspects. Venus at an 11, so we see that Uranian degree coming up, which basically means we had to shake out all of the blockages, all of the debris, all of the secrets, any intimacy issues, and also issues revolving around borrowing and lending, spending, debt, karmic debt, as well as financial debt, as Venus was in the sign of Scorpio. Now, you add it all together, there's an Aquarian vibe, there's a releasing the past vibe, there's a shock and surprise communication vibe, and really talking through some heavy hitting topics, long-standing issues, maybe thinking about our long-term goals and relationships and talking about where we see ourselves going. But in order to do that, we kind of have to shake out the past, South Node. Okay, so knowing that this is what was seeded, it's going to give us a snapshot of what's going to kind of play out over a 6-month period of time. So now we come to what's going to be the full moon in Libra. Let's switch this around there. And we should see some similar themes. And I love like when the universe just totally syncs up and we see it 6 months later. And maybe it takes 6 months for us to really kind of realize like, whoa, this is what's been happening. So full moon at 23, that's the Uranian degree. Check the connection to where Venus was at 11. We've also got the karmic situation playing out. Remember, it was at a 10 because Venus is retrograde. So she's dealing with the past. This time she's moving through Pisces, an area where she's a little bit more familiar and frankly, more comfortable. This is about cutting through illusions in love. This is also about clearing out old blockages and things from the past where we're afraid to love, be vulnerable, and honestly, where we're not getting our needs met. Now, Venus is also in conjunction to Saturn, so that's like a double whammy. Remember, the solar eclipse was at a 10, so it was referencing that we were going to be taking our time, really reevaluating, are the bonds, the relationships, the connections, the clients, the therapists, are we working with the right people? And what is our relationship to them? And then the grand finale, well, you've got an inconjunct or a quincunx happening from the moon to the ruler of the full moon. But simultaneously, Venus is sextiling Uranus, so this creates a yod. Well, it basically means that in spite of the friction that the emotions are having, right, our emotions in regards to relationships with what's missing, what's not working, maybe we're not kind of feeling secure or seeing a lot of clarity. And also the moon's quincunx to Uranus, which means we feel some irritability maybe. There can be some disturbances, some shakeups, some unexpected financial changes that can impact relationships. It's all kind of saying the same thing. So it's possible that some of the conclusions and decisions that we are kind of coming to around the time of this full moon in Libra, is not only going to have a major kind of karmic breakaway impact, like we're finally getting out of old patterns in relationships, we're not afraid of running away, we're wanting to address issues, maybe we're not being so secretive, we're being more transparent. It's going to have big physical and financial implications and effects. Now, this could be good because it could calm our nervous system, right? Certainly Uranus and Taurus, I think, is connected to that, where we've all felt a little rattled or destabilized. But it could also have a big effect on where people are borrowing, where they're lending, where they're shopping, where they're spending. And there can be some big financial undertones to just exactly who we're partnering with or who we're breaking away from. And I think a lot of this is also about really making the right decisions in relationships, aligning ourselves with people who have similar values, maybe aligning ourselves with brands or companies or even business partners or clients that are going to have the same perspective about what you value the most. So obviously that connection, I think, to the solar eclipse gives it a little bit of like an extra special punch. I do think that because eclipses are kind of like cosmic portals, we are kind of wrapping up one chapter where we've been over the last 6 months as we're getting ready to move into something new. Now, maybe you planted seeds around relationships then. You might see some major kind of conclusions and completions around that. If you're working on self-worth or balance, you're probably going to see which side of the scales you're on. Now, 6 months later, the full moon feels to me like a harvest, and it can show you what's grown from those intentions and also those upheavals. But it can also show you like what hasn't been working and where you need to pivot and either work with somebody new, choose a different path, choose a different partner, and that this is going to be like that make or break time. I do feel like for some people, this is a full moon that can mean a breakup. Doesn't mean everybody will. It can be a full moon that's also about unity and partnership, maybe setting a personal boundary with Venus conjunct Saturn. This is basically your check-in point, and you have to be asking yourself what's blooming and what needs pruning. Now, this is where knowing your personal kind of astrology is going to be important. Obviously, if you happen to be a Libra placement, sun, moon, or rising, I would say anywhere around like 20 to 26 degrees. I think you're going to be feeling this the most. But also, if you have anything 20 to 26 degrees of the cardinal signs, so Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, you're going to be feeling the effects of this also. And if this is a full moon that's on a personal planet, you have to take into consideration which house is it in, what does that planet represent, and what aspects is it making in the sky. Now let's take a look at what this full moon is all about. We're going to look at the aspects and we're going to talk a little bit about what they mean, because as you guys know, I always tell you, not all full moons are created equally. We have to look at how the ruler is kind of situated, what kind of connections it's making to other planets, and so on. So I think probably the biggest theme when we look at a lunation, new moon, full moon, eclipse, is we got to look at the ruler. So we've already kind of talked about how Venus is stationing. It'll actually be just hours later that Venus is going to go direct at about 24 degrees of Pisces. So even though this is a full moon that's more about Libra and the cardinal signs, if you have any personal planets, I would say 22 to 26 degrees of Pisces, I think this will be impacting you as well, because you're going to see that the ruler of the full moon is going to be on one of your personal placements. Now, Venus having gone retrograde, right? A lot of like having to clean out the fridge emotionally with values, what doesn't feel pleasurable, what style changes are we making, who or what is kind of coming back from the past, and what are we potentially walking away from? So incredibly karmic. Retrogrades are karmic. It's about dealing with past life stuff. It's about dealing with things that we've done throughout past cycles. And Venus retrogrades tend to kind of repeat around every 8 years. So it can be something that kind of mirrors what you were dealing with 8 years ago. Here's the kicker. Venus stationing direct means that there is going to be a very strong Venusian influence in the sky. And this can be positive in a sense where it can show us what relationships are made of. It can actually bring in the right person. It can be that defining moment where you realize, what, I do want to be with them, I do love them, or I do want to continue to work with them, or I'm willing to show up and make the sacrifices and do the work to make this work. Extra karmic because it's conjunct Saturn, right? And also the North Node. So throughout March into April, we're getting sloshed around with all of these planets that have been going retrograde in Pisces. And the good news is as we're getting to mid to the second half part of April, things start to kind of calm down. We see those retrogrades finish up, but they're still going to be kind of all slammed together in the stellium with Saturn and the North Node. So it still feels like, ooh, like if I walk away from this, am I going to be okay if I'm alone? Am I afraid to go out on my own? Are there things I'm afraid to share with people or be vulnerable, right? Or do I need to take a little bit more time to kind of think about stuff and process? So it's very significant for the collective. I always say, like, when planets are conjunct the North Node, nobody gets a pass. And in this case, Saturn's conjunct the North Node. So a lot of us have felt like things have been blocked, things have been stagnant, or that we have not been able to see so clearly, obviously, because it's in the sign of Pisces. We've had to trust, we've had to rely on our dreams, our intuition, our gut feelings. And I think with Venus, Saturn, the North Node, and Mercury all being conjunct, it means that we're needing to take a little extra time to kind of reevaluate things. So with the ruler being retrograde, getting ready to turn direct, it's going to be big decisions about matters of love, money, relationships. That serious alignment with Saturn is also very much about that commitment, right? It kind of solidifies relationships. We finally kind of define, are we working together? Are we moving forward? Are we making this decision? Are we making this commitment? And the North Node is very destiny driven, right? It's about the future and where we're going. So this full moon, I think, is a wake-up call. I think it's a wake-up call in regards to love and values. Commitments can solidify, and we can also see that if there have been illusions, right, they can start to dissolve. We can kind of peel back everything that we haven't quite seen so clearly or things that people didn't tell us, and it can be some big defining moments. Now, I think one of the most challenging aspects of this particular full moon is the fact that you're going to see the full moon in opposition to Chiron. Now, it's always in opposition to the sun. That exact opposition is the moment of the full moon, where we see the polarity and also highlighting these two particular signs. Aries, ruled by Mars, god of war, right? Combat, conflict, but also action, desire, right? Passion. And then that moon in Libra is really wanting to emotionally relate. And it's going to show us where relationships are going to potentially hit that kind of critical turning point as a result of what we're doing on an individual level. Sun in a 23. Are we acting out, right? Are we breaking free? Are we being more authentic? Are we being more independent? Are we being more of an individual? And that conjunction to Chiron is obviously highlighting a wound. Now, the Sun conjunct Chiron in opposition to the full moon in Libra is basically saying, hey, we've got some things that we need to heal or things that we've been working on. Chiron is the wounded healer, and that face-off with the moon is incredibly raw, right? It is very sensitive. We are going to feel more sensitive to criticism. We're going to be more aware of our own flaws. Maybe we're going to be feeling like people are going to be more vocal with us about how we need to change, what we need to work on, what's wrong. But by the same token, this is where identity wounds meet relationship truths. And so it is possible to heal through conflict with this vibe. Sometimes a little bit of conflict airs things out. We get it out in the open, we deal with it. Libra can be very diplomatic, matter of fact. Hey, I don't like this. This isn't working for me. Please work on this. I want to make this work, together. So it's great to get feedback. Obviously, you're going to get some constructive criticism. You need to be prepared for that. You need to be receptive, and you need to be willing to think about it. Doesn't mean that you need to internalize it, take it personally, but definitely keep your eyes open for where people are giving you some really valuable information about your actions and also where you can better yourself. This can be through a therapist. This can be with a healer, with a doctor, right? This can also be with a business partner or just being able to kind of get some feedback from a friend or a partner. I think the challenge here is that we're going to feel very vulnerable and very sensitive. And we can feel like people are acting emotionally with the moon in Libra. That's putting us in a position where some of us might feel rejected, or some of us might feel like there's something wrong with us because we may not feel like we have support or we have a partner or somebody who can kind of guide us. But for some of you, if you're going through a healing process, right? Healing a wound, taking time off of work, maybe this is a period where you have felt a little lonely or isolated. Partners in relationships can show up. They can say, what do you need? How can I help you? How can I be there for you? And they can kind of show you, that there are some people who will come into your life at the most opportune moment because maybe they owe you a favor, right? Venus conjunct Saturn makes me feel like this is, I keep saying, soulmates are checking in, soulmates are checking out. And there are some people that are way overdue for clocking out of their shift. And probably this is a full moon where they're going to realize, okay, it's time for me to go, or it's time for them to go. Creating space to actually let new love and relationships in. Now, The challenge here is that while we see this opposition between the moon and Chiron, so it brings up relationship and domestic wounds, issues maybe with women, maybe with mother figures, both of these square Mars, okay? And Mars is, in Cancer, it's just getting ready to come back into Leo as we're getting into mid-April. And this is about a 4-degree square. So that is enough to feel it. The moon is directly connected to Mars as well because Mars is in a lunar sign. So Mars becomes the focal point of this T-square. So that's why I say like 22, 26, 27, 28 degrees, cardinal signs, you guys are really going to feel this because the full moon is going to bring this on. And you guys have heard me talk about T-squares. It's kind of like getting T-boned. You're going in one direction and then wham, something hits you out of nowhere that you don't see coming. Mars is going to be that thing that you don't see coming. Right. And we've seen a lot of themes kind of going on with like Mars and all these planets recently in Pisces. We saw it during the solar eclipse in Aries. Mars is the ruler. It was trining all this stuff. We needed to be willing to let things go, be compassionate, be caring, be sensitive and in tune to the fact that not everybody is going to go through this change in a way that's going to be pleasant. A lot of people are dealing with long-standing emotional wounds, family issues, domestic issues, and things that need to be kind of moved through. And a lot of this has been about getting out of the past. So with Mars square, there is the potential that home moves, changes with family, conflicts with roommates, issues that are going on in homelands or countries or military mobilizations is bringing a lot of conflict and people fighting over what? War, fighting over homes, fighting over security, right? And emotional kind of resilience and crabbiness is kind of coming up. So watch out for that. We've got Mercury that is conjunct the North Node. And, with that conjunction, especially in Pisces, with like Saturn being there, I do feel like a lot of this is about communication being very vivid in an intuitive sense in our dreams. Some of us are able to read through between the lines. We can kind of see things. We're picking up on synchronicities or we're seeing the signs and like the omens that are kind of coming up. And it's really just about listening to our gut. Communication can be really difficult here with Mercury conjunct the North Node because it means there's still news coming out or things that are unfolding. In Pisces, it's more about emotions. It's hard to find clarity. It's hard to find the truth. It's hard to also express ourselves. And Mercury is now inching towards the conjunction with Neptune. So that's going to make it even more kind of confusing. Now, I do think that in spite of the emotional friction, okay, and this feeling that, protective instincts are maybe kind of clashing with the Libra moon's diplomacy, we can use this tension for motivation. Like, I think difficult times can actually show you just exactly what relationships are made of. And that when you're in that crunch moment, you can have experiences where it's like that person can step up to the plate and they can be there to support you through that process. Just because it may not be happening in a house in your chart that deals with relationships, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to be about relationships. It might be different types of relationships or other people, right? I do think that with Venus and Saturn being in conjunction, it's a karmic kind of reckoning. And that sextile that you're going to see to Uranus and Taurus is a bit of like a gentle nudge from the universe. It is bringing changes in how we physically do things, how we financially do things. This is about innovations that are happening in regards to love as well as stability. And change can feel supported, right? I feel like change can very much feel supported here with Saturn and Venus sextile Uranus. Maybe you're letting go of fears of insecurity. Maybe you're doing a lot of work when it comes to your self-esteem. Maybe you're investing in yourself and you're like, you know what? I'm going to be okay if I walk away from this partnership or if I walk away from this situation that I'm feeling like I'm outgrowing. Simultaneously, Mars is also sextile Uranus as well. So if there are some big changes and kind of turning points in relationships, not only is it going to have, I think, a financial implication, but you might see a lot of people go, you know what? Now we're moving. We were not vibing well with the community we're living in. We're not making good connections or relationships or friendships. So we're deciding we're going to move. There could also be that, some kind of issue going on where parties are separating and that's now creating a move. And suddenly people are like, okay, we're going to have to be kind of creative with what we're doing financially, or now we're going to have to be more financially independent, because we're moving and we're separating. So you will see that kind of happen with some people. Anyway, cosmic dance of balance, healing, and destiny, basically. And all in all, it's intense, but it's purposeful. Now, the Sabian symbol connected to this full moon is going to be the 24 degrees. Okay, so 24 degrees of Libra. And that Sabian symbol is a butterfly with a third wing on its left side. Now, this image is a little wild. It's about uniqueness. Obviously, we don't obviously see butterflies that have more than, two wings. So it's about what's different. It's about adapting and standing out while still striving for some kind of balance. So that third wing suggests that there is an extra tool or perspective, but it's uneven, and Libra doesn't like that. So it's hinting that there's like a challenge at integrating something new. So for this full moon, I think it's a call to kind of like embrace your quirks in a relationship, find harmony through authenticity, not perfection. And that's something that Libra strives for. If you see 23 degrees of Libra, trying to reach, perfection could drive them crazy. It could also mean that because partners are not satisfied or never pleased, there is this sense of individuals feeling like, oh, what's wrong with me? And like, because we're not able to adjust and make the necessary changes, that connection to the Sabian symbol, does it create some emotional turbulence? Does it create some domestic disharmony? Does it create some tension and fierceness with in-laws, with neighbors, even with roommates? I mean, I think some people will see that. Now, ritual recommendations for a full moon in Libra. First things first is we've got air, right, and Venus. So you could do something that's connected to the element of air. You could work with writing intentions. You could light some incense. You could decide that you want to work with bells or chimes or anything that's kind of connecting to that. Or you can also work with Venus. So any connections to Venus, whether that's symbols, colors, scents, anything like that. Aries is fire, so you can definitely write your intentions. You can burn them, you can release them and let them go, especially if you have any insecurities or feeling of blockages that's keeping you from relationships. Definitely a good ritual to do during this full moon. Obviously, Libra, if you're working with candles, I would say do something that's either going to be white for purification and healing, or do something with pink, because Libra loves Venus, Libra loves beauty. Maybe play some soft music, so something classical or something that's going to be a little bit more mellow, and then sit down and really write down what's out of balance. I know that seems kind of counterproductive, but we have to recognize it and we have to release it and let it go. Could be a relationship dynamic, could be self-sabotage. Then list what harmony actually looks like to you, right? And the whole goal here is to write down what's not working, burn it, and then write down how you're going to find balance, and then you're going to emotionally feel your way into, I'm going to achieve that. So we have to kind of clear out the past, reset, and then go, okay, this is what we're doing kind of moving forward. I would meditate, if you guys want to do that. It can be really great because obviously this is a air sign. You can work with rose quartz if you want to do that. You can also work with opal, that's connected to Libra. I also like amethyst for this full moon. It can be really great for, clarity and kind of purification. I also like nirvana quartz because nirvana quartz can be good at promoting happiness, love, self-love as well. And if you guys want to work with herbs, use rose. Rose is an easy go-to for Libra, as is lavender. And you can also work with chamomile because chamomile can kind of help bring in the balance. So you could make a tea out of that. You could throw it in a bath and, steep it in some hot water. You could burn some of that on a charcoal. And for those of you guys who want to use essential oils, you can use rose. Ylang ylang is good for connection with other people and better communication. And sandalwood is really good for grounding. So you can sprinkle these into, your guys' rituals, however you kind of want to do that. But I would just say for this particular full moon, you really want to take note of what's coming up. And I think April in general is pretty interesting. Like we're going to see, the full moon in Libra ruled by Venus conjunct Saturn in Pisces. We're going to see a new moon in Taurus. That's going to be conjunct Saturn, direct in Pisces. So April, all in all, can be a month of love, but it can also be a month of recognizing where we've been sacrificing too much, where something has been blocked for too long, where there has been some confusion and limitations, and where we need to kind of rebalance things and not align ourselves with people or things or relationships to others that make us feel out of balance, that make us feel insufficient, that bring out our wounds. And maybe, in many ways, they might antagonize us a little bit by kind of like fanning some of the flames with the sun conjunct Chiron. Certainly that connection with like the sun and, Mars and Cancer is saying the same thing. I think a lot of it can be where we're constantly rehashing the past, bringing up the past, bringing up the past, bringing up the past, to a point where it's just like, if people don't want to let the past go, we have no other choice but to be like, okay, we need to move forward. Because if we're reacting in some of the old emotional ways and patterns that we always have, we're never going to get off of the wheel, right? We're never going to get off of the hamster wheel. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there's not much else going on in this chart. We do see Neptune now in Aries. It is making a sextile to Pluto. So where maybe we're recognizing and seeing where we have been disillusioned, or where we have felt lost, or where we have felt disconnected, or maybe isolated. It is showing us that rather than leaning into Libra, which can be more romantic love, there is this sense of going, well, I'm going to find a friend. I'm looking for a group. I want to start healing with other people. I want to start a group, join a network, be a part of a subscriber base. I want to have platonic love. I want to have changes in my social connections. And that can also help diffuse some of the tension that can potentially be coming up. But if there's one thing I know, I think it's that there are just so many aspects with Venus, retrograde, Saturn, North Node, and then the quincunx, is it's actually saying that it's all of the things that we have been unwilling to recognize, unwilling to say, unwilling to come to terms with, things that we've been hiding, bits and pieces of ourselves, maybe that we have kind of compartmentalized, so we're not really ever fully reaching that kind of intimate connection with other people. That's getting in the way. Now, it can also mean that some of the disturbances and the friction that's going to be coming from relationships can be because of things that have been kept secret. So financial dealings, right? Romantic relationships that have gone on behind the scenes where people have been kind of messing around. Pisces is also about things that happen in private spaces. So it can mean that, you had a dream that something was going on and you're like, I'm going to confront my partner about this, like, I know this sounds crazy, but this is what I was thinking or feeling. We will see some people that will be acting on that. We will also see some people who will just be coming to some realizations and finally starting to see things clearly right around the time that Venus goes direct. So I'm on Central Time. I know we've got people all over the place, but for me on Central Time, it's going to be around 7:22 p.m. on April 12th. That means it's going to be closer to 5:22 p.m. on the Pacific Coast and 8:22 p.m. on the East Coast. But what we see is just a mere few hours later, not even that, Venus goes direct. So, usually when we see planets stationing, something is up. There is definitely something that is up and something that is going on. And that Venus is at 24. So that would be 25 of Pisces. And I should know this by now because I have talked about it so much, but we're just going to read that station degree and see what the Sabian symbols say for that. Okay, so 24 and change, it's connected to 25. The purging of the priesthood, interesting, as Pisces is connected to monks, priests, organized religion, spiritual centers, temples, right? And so the purging of the priesthood, the keyword is reformation. The theme is purification. The symbol speaks to integrity, to the consequences of violating a sacred trust. The image of purging of the priesthood refers to holding individuals in high places to equally high standards, and to the fact that those who set standards for others will also be judged by them. Man finds hope and inspiration in his own ongoing in those who live in his ideals, and he will not abide by betrayal. On a practical level, the symbol speaks to the separation of the wheat from the chaff, and the weeding out of whatever has lost its value and usefulness. At its highest, it represents high standards, ethical behavior, and rejection of hypocrisy and pretense. Watch for prejudice and bigotry and retaliation and vindictiveness. The accent is on dismissal. High authorities could be removed from office or exposed for wrongdoing. Your greatest advantage lies in getting rid of those things in your life that no longer serve any purpose. Be willing to release and let go. It's a good time for house cleaning. Guard against trying to destroy what you don't understand. Avoid making accusations that have no proven basis in fact. Stepping stones, purification, cleansing, rehabilitation, refinement, elimination, dismissal, censoring, eradication, expungement, extermination, deletion, abolishment, discharge. All right, so we all know what those words mean. People going to jail. I think that's really what's going to happen. And I 100% take pleasure and joy in that. I've thought this for a really long time, and I talk about this a lot in January and February. I talk about how the Mercury retrograde in Pisces is about stuff coming out and then it's not coming out, and then there's things that are missing and there's redactions. I talk about how Venus's retrograde conjunct Saturn in the North Node was going to be a lot about money and how money has been spent. Saturn is about leadership, okay? So how leadership behind the scenes, Pisces has been orchestrating and pulling the strings in regards to financial doings. Now, this can be everything from market manipulation, investments, stuff that's going on also with global trade, things that's also kind of connected to Pisces things, prisons. What's been also taking place with, what else? What's been happening with immigration, because Pisces is about immigration and where people are kind of globally going, and obviously it's connected to asylum. It can be connected to stuff that's going on with organized religion. So think like the Pope, the Catholic Church, major religious movements. And I think the planets going direct is this final kind of unveiling that's like, yes, this is how much money has been funneled into NGOs, situations, or how much money, I guess I should say, NGOs have been putting into certain government organizations, and how there has been a global involvement in where money is going and how it's being spent. It can also be very much connected to prison reform, right? Which we've seen recently. This has been happening in the UK. There's a major prison reform going on there. I won't go into details. I'm just going to tell you it is wild. And the other thing that I think that this might actually be about is that there is some major unveiling of some kind of scandal where we start to kind of recognize and realize, whoa, we've put our trust in these people, this, political appointee, this particular person in power. We made this sacrifice, we lost something, it went into, some kind of fund, and then how can we trust that? How can we balance that, right? How can we feel like we're supported from that particular person, group, or representative? And so I do think that with every full moon, there's polarity. We see some kind of sometimes separation or division. So some people are going to be kind of looking at things going, oh my God, Sun, Chiron, and Aries, how could you do something like that? That would hurt me as an individual. How could you take away from something that I've been investing into, since I started working, and give it to somebody else without me knowing? How could you, go and do these stock trades or do these other things and be investing in things that might actually be hurting the collective? I think that's the kind of stuff we're going to see. You guys have to keep your nose clean right now. And I'm not just telling you that. I'm saying that if you're not doing that, this is the kind of full moon where somebody does find something out that you've done where they feel like there is no forgiving. There is no being able to come back from something that has been shown that people are going to interpret as like a betrayal, right? So some of us, and that's a huge theme with Saturn conjunct Venus, unfortunately. Some people can feel like there's been betrayals in love, or that there has been some kind of letdown, or that, something has that you kind of built up, especially Venus in Pisces, you've built up in your mind as something that is like this amazing relationship. And then you start to see something fracture and you realize, oh my God, I never thought that they were capable of doing something like that, right? So it's going to be different for everybody. I know that sounds kind of scary, but know that whatever is getting shaken out is getting shaken out because there may be a false sense of support, partnership, right? Fairness, balance, and also working as a team. Libra is working as a team. We're going to find out that actually in some cases, some people are actually working against us, and we would never know that. Now, where Venus is, it's also 6 signs away from the moon. So actually, it's kind of saying it's more about, where we're having issues with interoffice relationships. And we thought that somebody at work was our friend. Come to find out they're ratting on us, or, they're talking smack behind our back. Venus at 24, 6 signs away from the moon, makes me feel like this could also be about medical systems, okay, where medical systems are working against us. And we're going to start to see how much money is being funneled into things and where it's being supported by some of these people involved in big business, government, whatever, even media. And we're starting to see the lid come off of that. Interoffice relationship drama as well. So finding out that so-and-so is dating so-and-so and that there's a squabble at work. This might also be bringing up a lot of changes for some people when it comes to their relationships to their healthcare practitioners, their teams, their gyms even, because it's 6 signs away. Changes with vets, changes with pets' health. I could see that kind of coming up for this also. I can go on, but just kind of wrapping as a Libra rising, all of the things that kind of happen when you see 6 signs away. The positive is that where usually the 12th house is hidden enemies, the 6th house is like, oh, you're going to see the problems. You're going to see the issues and you're going to recognize what they are. And then you're going to go, okay, I'm going to deal with it kind of like head on. The problem is that Venus in Pisces is quite passive, but the conjunction to Saturn is, now we finally have to open our eyes and go, yeah, this is not healthy. And this is actually not love, or this does not feel supportive. And, coming to terms and kind of realizing and recognizing that. And for some of us, it's going to be knowing that you have to know your worth. And even though it might be painful walking away from someone or something, you have so much more to gain. For others, it's a moment of rolling up your sleeves, doing the hard work, and being willing to really show other people what it means to love them. And it's not just in an emotional sense, because Venus is retrograde, Mercury is in Pisces. Words are not really going to show anything. Actions with Mars square this particular full moon, actions are going to show us. All right, so with that being said, let me take you guys through the 12 rising signs. I want to talk about where this full moon is taking place. Please, like I said, keep in mind, think about what you've been dealing with since last fall, what you've been working on and working through. And then, there we go. And then I want you guys to kind of, do a little bit of like mental review so you have an idea of what is now coming up. In my horoscopes, I like to look at the whole sign. Okay, if you're Placidus, that's cool. Just look for where about 23, 24 degrees of Libra is in your chart. You're going to probably have it to listen maybe to more than one sign, but you can use whole sign for this. I'm also a Western astrologer. I'm not a Vedic astrologer. I practice Western. And I'm going to be talking to you guys not only about where the full moon is taking place and perhaps what you might see, what you might expect, but I'm also going to kind of point out where Venus is in your chart right now so you can kind of see some of the other factors that are kind of coming into play. All right, so we're going to start with my Aries and my Aries risings. What's up, Aries? I hope you're well. This is all about this full moon in Libra that's coming on the 12th of April for you. And this full moon is going to be in your natal 7th house. Just some food for thought, okay? You're coming out of a solar eclipse, a Mercury retrograde, a Venus retrograde in your sign. I know a lot of planets have gone into your 12th house and now they're going to come back onto your sun, moon, or your rising, depending on which one you're listening to. To me, this represents like you've been kind of pulling back a little bit and you've been kind of thinking about, okay, do I need some more me time? Do I need to be sleeping more, resting more? Do I want to be having time away from the world? Am I needing to be separate from a partner or relationship? Am I rethinking a union? Something like that can be kind of going on, all right? Now, when you have the full moon, though, in your 7th house, first of all, it's in your opposite sign. So if you got anything 21 to 24 degrees, it's going to be a little bit more action-packed for you. And a full moon in the 7th is really getting you to think about relationships. Now, this doesn't just mean romantic. If you're married, if you're in a committed relationship, sure, but this could be a therapist, this could be your business kind of marketplace where you're selling things, you're dealing with clients. This could be a one-on-one relationship even that you have with somebody of a spiritual nature because Venus is in your 12th. So what you want to be watching for with Venus and Saturn in your 12th house is there is something subconscious going on in regards to relationships, right? It's possible that healing comes through relationships, that you finally release or you let go of a long lost love, or somebody comes back and they say, hey, I really want to be with you. I want to make this work. Regardless of what happens, it's really important that you're setting boundaries. Setting boundaries is very important because it's going to help you feel safe. It's also going to help you deepen the ties to other people. Watch for hidden fears that can be surfacing at this time. I do think it can happen. This full moon does square Mars, which is your chart ruler, and it means that there could be some tension going on in regards to a home or family matter. Maybe you're moving, right? Maybe you are cleaning out the garage. Maybe you are dealing with an in-law or a family member, and that tension, it brings up some feistiness with a partner. They're going through something, they're going through a change, and you're like, I just need to be left alone, And it's just showing you that, too much togetherness at home in a domestic setting, it can create some friction. But if you're able to find your kind of zen down, your private space, maybe you're going to the spa, maybe you're deciding you're going to go to church, or you're going to go to a meditation class, whatever, it can diffuse some of that tension that can be coming up at this time. All right, so for my Aries and my Aries rising, the card that I got for you is the 9 of Coins. Great card. This is a card that is about independence, treating yourself, splurging, being independent, being okay on your own. I really feel like this is about you recognizing that relationships are the icing on the cake of life, that you have to be 100% and complete with yourself, totally satisfied. And if somebody comes in, awesome. It's only going to add to what already feels like a complete life. Why? Because you can give yourself everything you need. You're not seeking that validation or fulfillment in another person. That doesn't mean it has to be romantic. It could mean, feeling like other people are giving you recognition or a pat on the back or making you feel wanted. There is this realization that you're like, I don't need that. Maybe I'm not going to take relationship stuff so personally when I'm not feeling like I have to rely on other people's attention. Good luck, my Aries. I'll catch you guys next time. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's up, Taurus? You are going to be doing this full moon in Libra in your natal 6th house. And yes, this isn't a sign that in conjunction or quincunxes you. So even though you're both ruled by Venus, so this is important for you as well, there is this sense of being like, okay, I don't want to get out of my comfort zone, right? Taurus rising. I want to do what's comfortable for me, what I value, what brings me pleasure. And then it's like, yes, relationships take work, right? Venus or Libra in the 6th house. So when you have a full moon in the 6th house, obviously it's going to be putting a huge emphasis on work. And when I say work, I don't necessarily mean proposals and starting new jobs or launches. For some of you guys, it might mean actually completing something. It can also be about health, all right? So Libra is connected to the lower back. It's connected to the urinary tract, the kidneys, all of that stuff. So be mindful of that. It can also be about the balance of the relationship that you have with your routine, who you're working with every day, right? Are you making time for relationship time? Do you feel like you can bring a little bit more beauty and kind of harmony to your day-to-day habits? Obviously, the Venus-Saturn conjunction is significant for you in its own right because Venus rules your chart. So the storyline of like Venus going through your 11th house and connecting with the North Node and Saturn is your audience, your friends, your connections, your social life. This is also about connecting with people who are on the same wavelength as you in terms of your vision, right? This can be artists, this can be spiritual people, this could be also building a team at work. So I think it's interesting that you have Venus going direct, conjunct Saturn, and then you also have the full moon in the 6th house. So there can be this sense of focusing on productivity, being able to be a little bit more active, maybe doing that in a group fitness class or something, getting on schedule and really having help and support from a team to be able to kind of get all of the busy work done. So obviously balancing these daily routines, maybe releasing over giving, and friends I think will be offering you like a very grounding vision at the time of this particular full moon. The card that we get is the Two of Swords, and this is a card that I always get when I'm pulling on Libra stuff. This is indecisiveness. This is about going back and forth, feeling a little perplexed. For some of you guys, it's like, well, I'm dealing with anxiety, I'm dealing with stress, or I'm trying to find a way to relieve that, or I'm indecisive about making a change when it comes to my health or my habits or my work. Maybe you're saying, you know what, I've got these people I'm working with, I love them, they're great, but I just can't stand the schedule. I don't like my boss, I'm not liking the location where I'm working. It could also mean that you're trying to decide whether or not you're going to be confronting or talking to somebody who is a friend or somebody at work about an issue. And you're trying to kind of find a way to do it tactfully, but maybe there's a little kind of stress or anxiety in kind of tackling that situation. Obviously, I think, Venus coming into conjunction with Saturn means that you have to share what your goals are with other people. And whether that's to hold you accountable or to let them know what you're trying to kind of accomplish or get done at work, or maybe it's just letting other people know, hey, you know what, actually, I'm committed to this new health and fitness routine. I can come out with you guys. We can go out to dinner. I'm not going to be partaking in drinking. I'm not staying out all night, but I still really want to hang out with you, and drawing that boundary or that line with other people. So don't fret, don't overthink it. Tell them what's going on. And if you're dealing with like an issue with work, get some feedback from some friends. Good luck, Taurus. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You guys are going to be doing this full moon in the sign of Libra. This will be taking place in a sister air sign. So if you have anything 22, 23, 24 degrees of Gemini, sun, moon, and rising, you're going to experience a trine during this particular full moon. Now, the full moon in the 5th house is generally pretty beautiful. It's something that we really love. This is a house that deals with creativity, with romance, with dating, creative hobbies, projects, as well as children. So if you have a full moon here, if you have kids, big things going on with your kids, maybe there's like a new creative project that you're finishing up. Maybe there's a new hobby that you're kind of partaking in. This could also mean that this could be a pregnancy for some Gemini risings. And I would say especially because there are trines and aspects to Jupiter in your sign. Also, I think with some of the retrogrades and the things that are going on, you could be getting ready to make some big announcement. Now, if it has nothing to do with children, maybe you're on the dating scene, you've met somebody that you really like, it's a turning point in your love life. If you're thinking about like launching your own business or doing something in regards to being more independent with your creative process, this could also be good as well. I say this because I'm looking at Saturn and Venus in conjunction, and Venus getting ready to go direct in your 10th house. So this tells me that, and Mercury's there too, there's about to be an announcement. It's like, I'm going to be a parent, or, this is my new business that I'm launching, or this is this new creative thing that I'm doing. I no longer want to be seen as, an accountant. Now I'm a painter. Something that's a little bit more fluid and kind of vibey with Pisces. So I think a lot of this is a passion project that can be kind of peaking, and also letting go of this feeling that you need to be a perfectionist. This is also about career commitments that need clarification, and you're needing to kind of clarify, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm working on, and it's also about communicating what you love and what you're most passionate about. Good luck, my Geminis. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You guys are going to be experiencing this full moon in Libra in your 4th house. So if you have anything that 22, 23, 24-ish degrees, it's going to be kind of squaring. Might even go out to about 26 degrees for some of you guys because of Chiron. But one thing that you want to think about is you're ruled by the moon. So new moons, full moons, they impact you a little bit more than other signs. And so if a moon in the 4th house, a full moon is, moon's at home. Moon likes being in the 4th house. And the moon also likes being in Libra, by the way. It doesn't mind being there. So for you, it's definitely going to be bringing up some of the themes and the effects of your home, your family. Now, this could be real estate matters, your parents. This could be something that's going on with a landlord. This could be closing on a house, moving, finishing kind of decor and like all that stuff. And Venus at the time which is the ruler, is conjunct Saturn, and it's in your 9th. So I could look at this a couple different ways. It can mean that family dynamics are shifting from the full moon. And because we see that connection with Venus and Saturn, it's impacting your beliefs about family, right? It could also mean that, you're releasing old roles in regards to your relationship to your home and your family. There is some new spiritual path that can be anchoring you. So, maybe you're going through some significant changes and you're like, you know what, I need to start getting into those, like meditation kind of courses again. I need to go back and read that, self-help book. I need to reconnect with a mentor or a guru. I need to get a reading about where I'm going to be living or where I'm moving. That kind of stuff can be coming up. 9th house can be in-laws. It can also be kind of connected to father figures. So you can see that there could be somebody coming to visit or coming to stay with you from far away, or somebody is saying, hey, can I come and visit and stay with you? So vice versa. Full moon, 4th house can also be about going home. So it could mean that you have to go and visit a mother or a family figure, kind of be there as they're going through a change as well. But honestly, Venus conjunct Saturn, and if you are like a third decan Cancer, is trining you. So maybe you're feeling more enthusiastic and optimistic about finding a new home, moving, connecting with relatives far away. Maybe there is a long distance relationship that is kind of brewing, which is now going to be impacting something revolving around where you're living. Am I moving to you? Are you moving to me? What are we doing? So I don't think it's necessarily negative. I think it's probably going to be a little bit easier with some of the aspects between Venus, Saturn, and Mars than you would anticipate. Where it's going to get you is it's going to square Mars in your 1st house. So you have to learn not to be overly emotional, not to react to things too quickly, not to get stressed out and combative about changes that are going on in the home front or changes that are going on at work. Some of you guys will be, quitting a job and relocating. Some of you guys are going to go, I've got family stuff going on. I have to take a break from work. I got to kind of be present with what's happening. And you're balancing that as both sides square Mars in your sign. The card that I get for you is the Emperor. Which is interesting because this can be about father figures, okay? Husbands, brothers, father figures, landlords, bosses. Certainly Sun conjunct Chiron, you can be seeing some issues that are going on with a boss where you're like, oh my God, this is killing me. But I think this is also about Mars and Mars in your sign. And even though Mars doesn't always perform well, it's debilitated in Cancer, in the first house, it acts on instinct. So it's about you going like, my gut's telling me this is what I got to do. And I got to take action. And maybe it is time to rearrange the furniture in the living room. Maybe it is time to call mom and plan a go home trip. Maybe it is time to say, you know what, if I want to change something that's going on at work and if I want to move, nobody's going to make it happen but me. And it's about channeling that energy of the emperor and being like, I'm going to get in the driver's seat. I'm the boss now, which you're doing anyway as planets are kind of retrograding in and out of your 10th house. So I think you're becoming more assertive and you realize that you're the one who's going to get you where you need to go. Good luck, Cancer. We've got Leo and Leo rising. What's going on, Leo? You're going to be doing this full moon in Libra in your natal 3rd house. So the 3rd house obviously is kind of like I always say the junk drawer in astrology. It's generally more about communication. So it can be contracts, there can be more meetings, a conversation that you have with a sibling, with a partner, with a legal matter. It can also be things involving things involving education as well as siblings and neighbors. What else? And anything else? Short distance trips, that kind of stuff. At least it's in a sign that is positively in harmony with you. But obviously, full moons, they do kind of show the moon opposing your sun. So it's very relational. So I would be looking at your relationship and how you're communicating. I would be looking at your brothers, your sisters, your neighbors, what people are saying to you, how you're responding to that. Now, at the time of the full moon, the sun is also in a sign that's going to be trining you. So if you're kind of like a mid-degree Leo, you're going to get the benefit of the trine as well as the sextile. So it may not be as high impact. But I think with Venus and Saturn being conjunct, and Venus is the ruler of this full moon, this is pretty significant. It does look like some of you guys might be renegotiating something. Could be a contract, could be an insurance matter. You could be getting a document connected to your taxes. You could be trying to get new health insurance, life insurance. You could be trying to get new car insurance. And Saturn is connected to your 7th house of relationships. So a lot of it's going to be about deep, intimate conversations, vulnerability, fears coming up, working through some financial challenges, talking about depth and meaning in partnerships and relationships. Speak your truth, right? But drop the people pleasing, because in the 8th house, that's not going to serve you. If you can do this, you can strengthen bonds on both ends and you can kind of get to the heart of a matter and have more, I think, transparency and also much more, I think, better intimacy in a relationship. It doesn't matter if you're talking about sex or you're talking about finances or, whatever, you're going to be able to kind of have clarity. And this is also a really good time, I think, also to be working through emotional or psychological issues. So if you need to be talking to a therapist, especially with Mercury, Saturn, and Venus in the 8th house, working with a healer, working with a hypnotherapist, can definitely be a good time to do that. All right, let me give you your card. There we go. So we've got the 8 of Swords that's coming up. I'm not surprised by this card. And the reason being is that you do have Mars in the focal point of the square, and Mars is in your 12th house, okay? So this is like where you feel stuck. And at least with the 8 of Swords, when I teach this card, I always say, look, the hands aren't bound, she can take the blindfold off, she can realize that she's surrounded by swords, and obviously there's water at her feet, so there's some kind of emotional turbulence, but she can get out of the situation. So I think that what this is saying is that there could be some internal frustrations that are kind of boiling up. It could be about changes at home. It could be repressed anger, frustration, things that you're still healing and that you're working on. And if you can lean into the trines that are going to be happening to your 8th house placements in Pisces and talk about what you're afraid of, you can actually break the cycle. You can actually have a breakthrough. Writing a letter to somebody, right, or having like something that you record or you give them can also be really beneficial as well. Or somebody might give you something where they're telling you how you feel, and you can go back to that. You can read through it, and you can kind of process. Good luck, Leo. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. You guys are going to do this full moon in the sign of Libra, and it's in your natal 2nd house. So obviously this is going to be very financial for both you as well as Pisces, because it's going to hit your 2nd, 8th house axis. Virgo, your chart ruler has been retrograde in the 8th house of other people's money. And it doesn't matter if it's your spouse's money, if it's child support, if it's tax stuff, if it's loans, if it's dealing with insurance. you've been going through retrogrades there. So there's been a sense of wanting to kind of reassess, what do you put into something? What are you getting out of it? So you have to think back to that. And then also the solar eclipse where you seeded some new financial goals 6 months ago. So when you have a full moon in the second, there is some major kind of conclusion or completion that's coming up in regards to your money, right? In the bank, in your pocket, physical possessions, things you're purchasing, your spending power. So there can be money coming in, but there can also be a sense of money going out. Now, for this, we're going to also look at what's going on with Venus, because Venus is the ruler. And as you know, it's been retrograde in your opposite sign, Pisces, through your 7th house. So there's a lot of reassessment where you stand with other people. It could be clients, it could be romantic relationships, business partnerships, a company maybe that you work for, and you've been going back and forth on where you stand with them. Are you guys on the same page? Not just in terms of your emotions, but what you guys are building towards in the future. Investing, right? Having kids. It could be also about saving money together, getting out of debt, and kind of focusing on better intimacy and transparency. So some major financial thing is coming up as a result of a change in direction with a relationship or a partnership as Venus is meeting with Saturn. I do think that it means that there can be a union that can be happening. So like, for example, you're getting married, right? You're putting your resources together in some cases. You start a new partnership. You guys are now able to kind of do more. Maybe there's more funding that comes to the table. Maybe you partner with like a new company and now all of a sudden you have more clients. Boom, you're making more money. That kind of stuff can be kind of happening for you. So pay attention to relationships, realize that Mercury is still coming out of its shadow. So there's a lot of valuing yourself and needing to release scarcity vibes. I feel like a relationship for you guys is definitely getting real and you're recognizing what you value in relationships. Now, if you're a Virgo rising and this is a definitive turning point and you're like, actually, we're splitting up, we're divorcing, I'm moving out, I got to give her stuff back. You can see that stuff that can be happening too. So there can be a lot of you owe me this. They got to pay me back that, I'm taking the couch, that kind of thing. And you're seeing that we're a separation or a change that's going on in a professional or romantic relationship will be impacting you financially. We have the World card and Goddess. For some of you guys, you're like, it's done, like it's done. Whatever is going on, this is like the final like showdown. And the World card is positive in a sense where it's saying, you're clearing the karma, you're clearing the decks, you're moving through it, wherever there's been blockages, now you're going to push through this. But I feel like this is about a definitive turning point in a relationship for my Virgo risings. And this does mean that there is not going to be another go round. You're either going to be done or you're going to be like, we have to start over and we only need to focus on how we can move forward, not rehashing some of the same things in the past because of the impact that it can have on you, not just financially, but also your self-esteem with a full moon in your 2nd house. Good luck, Virgo. We've got Libra and Libra rising. You guys are the stars of the show. This is your once in a year full moon that you get in your sign. Libras, I want you to think about what goals you set in motion last full. Okay, what happened? You had that solar eclipse. There was some major kind of epiphany maybe about where you needed to get out of your own way. Now, 6 months later, you have a full moon in your 1st house in your sign. So if you are Libra rising, this is all about your appearance. This is about your body, how you're dressing, how you're carrying yourself, how people see you. This is also very much connected to your emotions, right? Because the emotions are worn on the sleeve when you have the moon in the 1st house. In your case, the moon's connected to your 10th house of career. So it's about your public reputation, how people see you, how you're working with people at work, so on and so forth. And this particular full moon is significant, not just because it's in your sign. So if you have 22, 23, 24 degree Libra placements, it's big, but it's ruled by Venus, which has been retrograde. So you and Taurus have been like going through the trenches on this one. And Venus retrograde actually started in your 7th house of relationships, now moved into your 6th house of day-to-day habits and routine. So where the 1st moon is the body and the appearance of the body, the 6th house is going to be about your health and your habits and your routine. So yes, you're in focus. Maybe there is some big conclusion for you. Maybe there's some big glow up. Maybe you're getting recognition for something. Maybe you're being seen. Maybe you're feeling or looking different. But that's being brought on through your 6th house. So, you're shedding old identities because it was a South Node eclipse last year. But it's also about that coming through because you have been working on yourself because there has been much more self-care. There's been much better discipline. Venus conjunct Saturn in the North Node means that you have been trying to really focus on mind, body, spirit balance. It's not just, am I eating my vegetables and, putting my clothes away and doing my laundry and walking the dog? It's like, no, am I taking time to sleep? Am I taking time to rest? Am I learning not to overwork? Am I dealing with things that have been bothering me emotionally? And so it has been a lot of hard work and dedication for Libras and Libra risings to have this physical change. On the other hand, when you have Venus retrograde in your 6th house and you have Mercury retrograde in your 6th house, which is not just your health and habits, but also the effects of that. Some of you guys have been on the other end of the spectrum where you're like, I'm sick, I'm not doing well, I've got some kind of thing going on with my health, I'm having to walk away from a job because I'm having to prioritize myself. Yes, these things can happen. I'm going to be fair here. On the other hand, there's like so many things. A full moon in your 1st house, Libra, it could mean that you're finally making a necessary change at work that is going to be beneficial for your health. You're finally getting into a new office. You're changing your schedule. You're going back to work after taking time. You're fixing an inter-office relationship issue. Or perhaps some Libra and Libra risings will get pregnant. The only thing that I see with this is that will suddenly be like that record scratch moment that's like, okay, how does this impact my schedule? What do you mean I can't drink or have sushi? Very Saturn, Venus in the 6th. So you guys will have to let me know what happens. Please keep in mind also that this is in opposition to Sun and Chiron in your 7th house. So relationship wounding is a thing. People can definitely be insecure, having issues, having problems. It can make you feel emotional, make you go, this is not my problem, this is your problem. And this square to Mars in the 10th house can also be talking about some competitiveness, some friction at work, issues with authority figures, and a showdown maybe that you're having about just exactly who's in charge. All right, Libra, this is the card that you get. It is the Magician card. I think this is about magical transformations. And whenever I see this card, I always think of as above, so below. So you may not necessarily see the manifestations yet, but you can think about them, you can visualize them, you can ritualize them, you can pray for them, right? You could dream about them. And so the more that you're kind of connecting on what's going up in the ethers, the much more likelihood it's going to manifest in a physical way. But you have to feel your way into it with Venus in Pisces. What does it feel like to be healthy? What does it feel like to have a stress-free schedule? What does it feel like to be productive, to be in the perfect job, right? These are things you got to think about. And the impact that that's going to be having on you emotionally or psychologically, especially with the quincunx to Uranus in your 8th, where there can be some financial jitters or there can be some psychological stuff, and Venus and Saturn in your 6th. So Libra and Libra risings, watch your health, okay? Good luck. We got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. What's up, Scorpio? You're doing this full moon in Libra. It's going to be in your 12th house. What a fun place to have a full moon. This is where we all kind of get a little squirrely. Full moon in the 12th house obviously is dealing with hidden spaces and places, right? Things that we have not wrapped up karmically, our subconscious, our dreams, things that are hidden and behind the scenes. So with the full moon in the 12th, we are needing to sometimes sleep more. We need to kind of have some private time. Maybe we need to take some time to stretch and kind of be alone in nature. On the other hand, Libra in the 12th house can also be very romantic. So this could mean, oh, I'm doing a romantic dinner date. I'm going out of town. There's some kind of romantic thing planned, an unexpected turning point maybe in a relationship, full moon in Libra in the 12th. And the ruler of this particular full moon is Venus, okay? And Venus is going direct in your 5th house just after the full moon. Now, Venus likes being in Pisces, and Venus likes being in the 5th house. So I think that the Venus retrograde has actually been more beneficial for you, Scorpio. It's given you more time to think about, what do I want in matters of love? Can I get back to an old hobby, painting, dancing, playing guitar? How can I be more aware and on top of my self-love? How can I be trying to create things that have meaning? Maybe an old love came back to you with Venus retrograde because Venus is connected to your 7th. So, I think that for Scorpio and Scorpio rising, I'm predicting some unexpected shocks and surprises for your love life. And I don't think they're necessarily going to be bad. I think that with Venus conjunct Saturn, this is going to be a heart-to-heart conversation. Maybe there is a commitment. There's an I love you. There is this realization of what the heart really wants. And this is also about releasing buried resentment that can be kind of coming up from your childhood or an existing relationship or things from the past. And you got to watch for dreams that are revealing truths to you. Creativity can get very serious here. The only thing I want you to watch for is that this full moon does square Mars, which is one of your rulers, and Mars is in your 9th house. So for a lot of Scorpio and Scorpio risings, there has been this goal, right? To dream big, to go further, to complete something, whether it's completing a program, a higher study, going back to school, traveling, right? There's been something going on that you've been trying to kind of accomplish. And that Mars square is saying, well, it's also frustrating because I haven't felt like I've had the time in my schedule and I haven't been getting enough sleep, and too many things kind of feel like they've been kind of piling up. So with Venus being going direct and being the ruler in your 5th trine Mars, it's saying, you know what? Yes, there has been a lot of scheduling stuff going on. Maybe you have felt overworked. It's been overwhelming. But guess what? Rather than giving into some of the frustration of the square, it's like, go and do something fun. Go out to dinner, have a nice date, have a movie night, right? Do like a paint and sip night or something very Venus Saturn in the 5th, where you can actually de-stress and you can allow yourself to unwind a little bit and have the opportunity to have a bit of like a romantic kind of connection with that full moon being in your 12th house. Obviously, yes, you're still trying to get matters of the heart kind of settled. You're trying to get everything out there and kind of further defined. But with your 7th house going direct, your 7th house ruler going direct conjunct Saturn in the 5th, I think this could actually be really good news for a lot of single Scorpio risings, or those of you guys who are partnered, further devotion and commitment, and also big turning points in regards to children. All right, Scorpio, let's see what the cards say for you for this full moon. Wah, wah. This is not a card you want to see when you see a full moon in the 12th house. Well, what is the Tower card? This is the oh shit moment. This is, okay, we're knocking everything down so that way we can rebuild. The Tower is connected to Mars, and so maybe it's really highlighting that moon square Mars where it's like, if there's so much frustration that's going on from travel, legal, educational, things, yeah, you could see there could be a bit of friction in a relationship, and a relationship feels like it's dying or it's not getting the necessary attention or devotion that it might need. And so this can be that reckoning where it's like some Scorpio risings are going to be like, whoa, I've completely alienated my partner. Like I've been so stressed out that I didn't realize that they need me too. Or it can be where you're blindsided by something that comes up in a relationship. But the Tower card comes up where it's like, this must change. So you might review some of the things that have been happening since Mars has been squaring Chiron. You might want to review some of the things that have been happening also during this Venus retrograde, so you're better prepared and you're not having those kind of shocking situations. Let me know what happens. I'm curious, you guys, now that I've seen your card. We've got Sag and Sag rising. You guys are going to be experiencing a full moon in Libra. This will be taking place in your natal 11th house. Now, the 11th house deals with friends, allies, community, as well as wish fulfillment and your goals. So for some of you guys, something you've been wishing for, hoping for, may now be coming to fruition. Full moon in the 11th house could be a party, a gathering, a get-together. It could also mean that there is some kind of turning point with like a network event, or you're putting something out there for your audience to see. Obviously, it's in a sign that sextiles you, and the sun in Aries, if you're 22 to 24 degrees, is trining you. So it's a little bit friendlier for obviously my air and my fire signs. But really my focus is where is Venus? So even though there could be a gathering, a party, a get-together, it's going to be in the realm of Venus, Saturn in the 4th. So I could see this as like for some of you guys, friendships shift, right? That can happen. You might realize you're not in alignment with a certain person. Maybe you're letting go of people who are like freeloading, or people who have been, taking you for granted, or people who have been friends that have been staying with you, who might feel like family. Family ties could also solidify under the Venus-Saturn connection in your 4th house. But this could also be like a family get together, right? There could be some news of like an up and coming family reunion. There might be some big party or celebration for an older woman. Maybe grandma's having a birthday, maybe mom's getting remarried, maybe your sister's having a baby. These kinds of things could be happening because Venus is women, Saturn is going to be older things. Or maybe you're reaching some turning point when it comes to your goals with your home. Maybe you finally saved enough for a down payment. Maybe you finally sold your home. Maybe you finally remodeled something, or you figured out just exactly what your goal is for your home, family, and living situation. I think all in all, for many of my Sag and Sag risings, it's been pretty wild here with some of the retrogrades and the squares to your chart ruler, Jupiter in your 7th. So things are going to calm down, and you might feel like now that they are, you're more so grounded and settled, and there might be something worth celebrating now that you have kind of gotten March and the first half of April out of the way. All right, so let's see what we have for Sag and Sag rising. Great card. Ace of Coins. Is it something valuable that comes your way? Does somebody give you a family heirloom? That's very Venus Saturn. Is it something where there is a financial goal that's met? I think it's like, oh, I finally was able to purchase a new couch. I could see that Venus Saturn in the fourth. It's like responsible, and it's very kind of like that Saturn nature that's like, yes, I need something that's going to be quality and like long standing, and being proud to kind of show your friends or your family what you've been able to accomplish in your space. Family money, some kind of investment, inheritance, some kind of growth that's coming from your family, your home, property, real estate, or your roots. And also this is about feeling more solid, and like I said, I think it's having something to celebrate. So enjoy that full moon, Sag. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You guys are going to be experiencing the full moon in Libra in your natal 10th house. And obviously, you are the missing piece of the puzzle. If we've got the moon in Libra, Mars in Cancer, Sun, Chiron in Aries, some of you who are like 22 to 24 degrees are going to be experiencing a grand cardinal cross. So just hold on. You might have to white knuckle it through the full moon. It might feel a little bit more action-packed for you. But the good news is that the 10th house is an energy you're familiar with, Capricorn. You're the boss. You know how to manage things. And a full moon in Libra in the 10th house is all about your career, your reputation, your relationship status, who you're working with, what you're known for. Even if you're retired, it can very much deal with like your public relationships to some extent. So really, I think about with a full moon, do you start a new job? Do you quit a job? Do you give a big presentation? I think a lot of you guys are going to be really focusing on communication in your jobs, whether that's giving presentations, signing contracts, having more meetings, traveling for work. And the reason why I say this is because you have Venus, which is the ruler, getting ready to go direct conjunct Saturn, your chart ruler, in the third. If I was a Capricorn rising, I would be waiting to get some kind of significant email or maybe a review, or maybe there was going to be a meeting that I was going to have with a boss. If you have been refining, let's say, a website, or going back and building out your media, or maybe you're changing something about your aesthetic or your branding, right? This full moon would be like, ta-da, look what I created. If you have been thinking about relaunching a podcast or a blog or debuting something, it could be something that you're going to be doing with that full moon in the 10th house. So I think the focus here is really work goals peaking, releasing doubt, in yourself, or not being optimistic, or where you've been too rigid in terms of your mindset with that Venus Saturn, and recognizing that words shape your path. Now, this could also mean that it's about your relationship with sisters, aunts, cousins, neighbors, and like that's kind of coming into public view in some way. So if there's like a spat on Facebook, right, or something like that, they can definitely be more visible as you guys kind of hash that stuff out. But Venus is a benefic. So Venus retrograding conjunct Saturn, I think for some of you guys is like, I got an email that I got the job, or I got hired for that writing gig, or, somebody's going to pay me to, sponsor my podcast. And it can be really, really positive things that are happening for you guys. It's just the challenge is that square to Mars that's going to be in your 7th house. So it might feel like you're facing some family challenges or some home challenges. And you're really trying to put on your happy face and show up at work. And I think that, some of you guys might be having to travel for work, or maybe you're working remotely, or you're having to renegotiate something in terms of contract. But just take it easy, especially if you have anything that 22 to 24 degrees, know that it will pass. And it's all about really receiving the support that's coming in with Venus conjunct your chart ruler, Saturn in the third. The card that I get is the Lover's card, which I love since you have Venus in the third house. That's like a very Venus Gemini thing. This is a card that's associated with Gemini. So Geminis might play a role here. Obviously, Jupiter is in your 6th house. So a lot of you guys are switching jobs, changing jobs, taking on a new schedule. I think that this is about really focusing and honing in on what do you love, right? And so for many of you guys, I think with the North Node of the third, you're like, how can I work remotely? How can I write a book? How can I teach a class? How can I create media? And you're focusing on what you love. You've been doing that through the Mercury retrograde and through the Venus retrograde. And so now it's time to kind of really share where you stand with things, who or what you love. options, choices, temptation. Do I want this or do I want that? Maybe you've been going back and forth as to whether or not you're going to sign a contract, take a job, or make a move. But I do feel like if you follow your heart with this card, it's going to take you in the right direction. Good luck. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You guys are going to be doing this full moon in Libra in your natal 9th house. Fellow sister air sign. So if you have anything 22 to 24 degrees, it's going to be trining your placements in Aquarius. Now, full moons in the 9th house, oftentimes there is this theme of the 9th house that's coming up pretty significantly in your life. This can be about growth. This could be about travel. Maybe you're at an airport. Maybe you're booking a trip. There's a graduation, there's a wedding, there's some kind of celebration or some kind of positive growth that's taking place in your life. Now, obviously, because it's trining your sign, and it's got a really loose trine to Jupiter, I think all things considered, you might really like this full moon. I think it could be a time where you're traveling, you feel like there's more romance, you feel like there's more opportunity. And a full moon in the 9th house where the ruler, Venus, is conjunct your chart ruler is super beneficial. If you've been holding back and you've been like, I'm not going to spend a lot of money on, going on a trip, not now, or I'm not going to be taking that course, or maybe it's not the right time to publish that book, or I don't have the extra funds maybe, to be going and dashing around the world, that actually might be changing around the time of this full moon. Why? Because your mind expands when you have a full moon here. It's all about your, dropping your limited beliefs. It's all about also money, because Venus rules money, and because Venus is retrograde conjunct Saturn, more money is coming to you. So you're feeling more optimistic about money situations, which might make you feel more positive just in general. You might feel like also it's going to give you the freedom to go and see the people and the places that you would like to go to. It could also mean that you've been reinvesting in yourself, working on your self-worth, which is in turn benefiting your relationships, and you're feeling more optimistic about your connections with other people. So yes, money talks get practical, but I feel like you might go, there are some things worth investing in. And especially if you have, a partner of some kind or a long distance relationship, you're going to go, no, I'm going to make that investment. Now, the 9th house could also be about completing travel, completing education. It could be about legal matters, publishing matters, or meeting with a professional. So you might say, well, it is worth spending the money, to kind of consult with a doctor or a lawyer. It is worth maybe, paying a little bit of extra money to, reach close the gaps in distance with other people and go and meet them more than halfway. So you're going to have to decide what's worth investing in. But I do feel like it's going to be good news that's kind of coming for you financially. All right, so the card that we get for you is the Ace of Swords, which I love for a full moon in Libra. New opportunities, which is cool because it's a full moon, okay? So it's saying the full moon is prompting this. It's saying, hey, let's connect, let's get out there, let's communicate, let's be swift. And the Ace of Swords deals with timelines that are connected to the fall, so it can mean that you're like, okay, we're not going now, but we're gonna start planning the trip for, September, October, November. It could also mean that this is about something you're publishing. This could be about a lecture or something that is connected to a teacher or something that you're learning that is going to help you feel more confident. It's going to help you feel more assertive and also more direct when it comes to your mental work. Good luck, Aquarius. I love that card for you. All right, and last but not least, we have Pisces and Pisces risings. You guys are going to be doing this full moon in the 8th house of Libra. Spooky. I am so curious to see how this manifests for my Pisces risings, because some of the aspects here are wild. So first of all, having a full moon in a sign that in conjuncts or quincunxes you means that something's not resonating. And Pisces is etheric, spiritual, sensitive, emotional. And then Libra is kind of direct, matter of fact. It's also about stuff that you don't see kind of coming with other people. Now, this could be secrets. This could be intimacy stuff. This could be money stuff. This could be endings or new beginnings. But the 8th house is about transformation. Transformation of what? Relationships, right? Okay, relationships. So with Venus being connected to this full moon, and Venus will be stationing in your sign, it means that you're getting ready to make a decision about what you will or will not invest in with other people. This could be financially, emotionally, intimacy-wise, commitment-wise. And you're like, am I in or am I out? Do I want to invest in this stuff? Do I want to go back to this person? Do I feel safe in that relationship? And Venus conjunct Saturn means that you're making decisions that are going to be best for you, your health, your peace of mind, and your goals. And because you're committing more to yourself, it is radically changing and transforming your relationship to everyone and everything else. On top of that, Venus is also quincunx the moon. So the moon will be at 23, okay? So Venus is quincunxing it, which means that because you're being a little bit more hardcore and rigid with your boundaries, which is a good thing, it is pressing on other people. And maybe you're not feeling like a pushover. Maybe you're not making sacrifices anymore. Maybe you're not putting yourself last. And you're like, no, I can't keep being the one who foots the bill. I can't be the one who is constantly, being lost and kind of confused. I can't feel like I'm in a position where I don't have security with you or with this thing. And it is very relationship oriented, okay? It could also be making a big decision about an investment, about a major transformation of yourself. Obviously, this can also be about cosmetic changes. This can be about aesthetic changes, style changes, all that stuff. And it's just so personal for you. And I feel like for a lot of Pisces and Pisces risings, it is about this deep change that's unfolding. And it's been unfolding over this last month. And it's about releasing control. You're like, I can't control what other people can do. I can control what I can do. And I can't let other people's drama impact me and the way that I treat myself. So you're refining who you are. And you're doing it in an individual way, separate of other people. Interesting that this comes on the heels of last month's full moon lunar eclipse that you had in Virgo, where there was some stuff going down with other people, with either relationships, clients, business partners. And now you're like, okay, this is going to have some financial implications, but maybe that's what has to happen. And I got to do what I got to do what's best for me, even if that means that other people are going to go through a change. It could also mean money is coming your way, support is coming your way. You're applying for a loan, maybe it comes through. If you're, thinking about committing to cosmetic surgery, you might be kind of committing to making the investment in that, or some kind of change emotionally or psychologically. If you've been going through therapy, if you've been doing hypnosis, if you've been doing something that's really working on a psychological level, now you're seeing how those positive shifts are actually impacting you emotionally and physically. All right. So as a general tip for all of my signs, lean into, obviously later that night, Venus going direct. All right. That means clarity is coming. Mercury will be direct at this time as well. Yes, Mars is going to stir the drama a little bit. So you got to breathe before reacting, and just know that this full moon in Libra is a cosmic mirror. That's really what this is. It's really reflecting where we're aligned and where we're not. So with Venus, Saturn in the North Node, yes, it feels like a soul level reset on this full moon, but that also tells me it was destined. It was fated to be this turning point in relationships. If something's ending, something better is coming in. And for some of you guys, there can be much closer connections and bonds that can come from this. Do the rituals, feel the shifts. Let me know how this hits you guys in the comments. Maybe what's been changing for you since the solar eclipse in Libra last year. I feel like I can create a whole video on that. I'm so glad that the solar eclipses and everything are done, and the lunar eclipses as well. And I feel like it's interesting now to see the full transformation just on a personal level now that this full moon is kind of coming in Libra. So let me know in the comments. If you guys want more astro insights, click the bell button below, subscribe to my channel, check the links below in the description. You guys can see my book recommendations, my website where you can book a session with me, and I teach tarot and astrology. So if you've ever wanted to learn, check out beyondtheveiltarot.com. I would love to be your teacher and show you how to do all the astro things that I do. Until next time, enjoy this full moon, let love lead the way, and I will catch all of you guys very soon. Take care.